Hello, in this video I'm going to be talking about pain and time and share my ramblings on these matters. So we often think that animals are on a different band of consciousness to us, right? They are fully in the moment, they're just chilling. As far as we're concerned, they only care about the present, whereas human brains are more sensitive and complex. There's a larger spectrum of stimulus that we are open to, but that also means consciousness is essentially made up of pleasure and suffering, right? If you look at it dualistically, either experiences are pleasurable or they're not, or they're maybe neutral and in between. But if you look at it from a spectrum of one side and the other, pleasure and suffering, kind of makes sense to look at it that way, right? To be fully alive then, consciousness is something we have to fully experience. We would have to fully experience both ends of the spectrum, which means that surely we should be willing to suffer for the pleasures, because you can't have your cake and eat it too. You have to have both sides of the coin, if you will. But no one seems to be willing to suffer for their pleasures, or at least I don't think I've met anyone who's really diehard about that. It just seems innate in our biology to resist pain and suffering. Why would you want to suffer? It's almost, suffering is something you'd have to really put up with to get something great, but it's not something we'd necessarily be willing to do in most circumstances. Now, since consciousness, it contains both pleasure and suffering, to strive for just pleasure without any pain or suffering almost could be equated with a loss of consciousness, right? Because you can't have duality with just one side. You need to have both sides of the spectrum. So, if you eat too much rich food and pleasurable food, it'll either make you sick or you just lose your appetite for it because it's just so good all the time. You don't really have any other reference point to base your taste off of. And it's just the same way. There's depictions in multiple religions of hell being the place where there's just pleasure has been taken to the extreme. And I probably won't put an image up on the screen because I don't really want to edit it, but it sort of expresses the message quite clearly, I think. Anyway, I'm not religious myself, I don't believe in God, but I think that the reason humans tend to seek God and things outside of the day-to-day realm is related more to time and not just pleasure in this moment, because we need something outside of us to sort of make this moment bearable. So animals might think that this moment is just enough, whereas we humans always tend to desire a better future, something great that is going to make this moment bearable and manageable. So an example might be, let's say a man has to, let's say he's got a good life, he works in a nice company, has a good family, good friends, does work that he's actually he enjoys, etc. But in about a week's time, he has to have major surgery. I would bet money that he's not enjoying the present moment as much as he could be in an ordinary circumstance. Why? Because his mind is in the future, not being enough with the present moment. And this is sort of the reality for most people. Most people do not fully live in the present moment. We often live in the past or the future, which is almost to say most people aren't really living, because the only time is now, the eternal now. And to be elsewhere is to not really be in reality, because if you're always in future mode, let's say you've got plans, you're planning for a future that hasn't come yet, and when that future does arrive, if you're still in planning mode, planning for the next thing, then you never enjoy the future that you planned for. So you just are always on this loop outside of the present moment. Now, I don't know. I guess the cause of that would be low awareness of what's going on. So I suppose raising awareness is the antidote to that, but it's almost innate in our biology to do so. And just think about businessmen as well. A lot of them say they're earning a living, but they're just earning and earning in this case, because they earn money to make money with the money they make, and then just make more money on top of that. It's just an endless cycle about making money, 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 which of course there are people who enjoy their business, and I'm not saying everyone is like that, but it's often the case where you just get making money for money's sake, and it's a result of that sort of thinking. So there's a price to be paid in this increase in consciousness. The pleasure and the pain, the past and the future, all of this sensitivity to bigger dimensions means we have to put up with both sides. We have to deal with the good and the bad, right? And nature, it seems, has created desires which ultimately aren't able to be fulfilled. If anyone did fully fulfill their desires completely, maybe it's food, sleep, sex, self-actualization, security, good friendships, all of this, then the human race would probably just cease to exist, and we would stop progressing, right? Because we just wouldn't be motivated to do anything, because we've already got all of our desires completely fulfilled, right? So there's a biological imperative there. Desire is necessary for us to continue, but why continue if it's a complete drag is another question, and I don't have a good answer to that right now. But it does seem to me that the point of life is to be alive. And, it just seems in general that consciousness in this life is rather absurd. It seems that we can't really hack it. We can't quite get over this human problem of the past and the future and not being fully here now, right? But if you really ask yourself, do you want painlessness and bliss for all eternity? Is that really what you want? My answer right now is probably not. Probably, I don't have good evidence for this, but everything as it is right now is probably the best option, because it's in the middle of pleasure and pain, sort of in that middle pathway. Would that not be the best case? But that was the question I wanted to leave the viewer with was, if you could have eternal bliss, if you could transcend time and pain and suffering, would you bother with that? Would that be a good idea? That's just some food for thought for this video. That's what I want to end at, really. And this is more of a philosophical rambling. I was looking at my notes and just wanted to get some ideas out there. But if that maybe provokes some thought, I wish you well on your journey. And have a great rest of the day. Thank you very much.